আমি নেপালি একটু একটু বুঝি Bangla is the national language of Bangladesh, must be as mother tongue. But like you speak Nepali here, we speak Bangla as the national language. But my language is different, so you have different languages. थोड़ा सा हिंदी भी आता है, मगर वे ठीक ठाक नहीं है, गलत होता है. हिंदी और बांग्ला वो दो मिक्स करने से थोड़ा सा नेपाली समझ आते हैं.
You can mix Nepali too. It was interesting, you know.
But thank you very much for today's invitation. I am really honored as my friends. But also I want to express my deep gratitude to the Nepali indigenous peoples for nominating me for the indigenous member from Asia. Nepen was one of the first to nominate. I am deeply grateful for that, for the support, and many other organizations from Asia also supported. And I have had many interactions, and we worked together at the Permanent Forum, at the Working Group on the Draft Declaration, and other United Nations forums with our Nepali indigenous colleagues for many years. And I recall that with gratitude and respect. And I also appreciate the opportunity that I have had over the last few years, especially in the last 2 years. Chaitanya ji knows that. He mentioned a little bit of dialoguing with the Nepali indigenous leaders and with the members of the Constituent Assembly. And in fact, I went just a few months ago and submitted a report to be used by the Nepali leaders. And then 1 year before that, 2 of us went, and maybe you do not know who the other person was. He was a lawyer. I am also by training a lawyer, but not my full profession. Mr. John Henriksen from Norway. He is a Sami, but his other identity is actually the husband of Chandra. So I'm very grateful for that opportunity. But we will see how much of that is useful. But I have a very deep admiration for the indigenous peoples of Nepal for struggling against discrimination and exclusion. And I think we can, those of you many of you are living now in New York or in the USA and other parts, you can understand in some ways how deep the discrimination is when you sometimes see the Native Americans who are in the USA, how they have been excluded and discriminated against. And of course we are very happy that President Obama has now supported the UN Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples at a summit with the Native American leaders. But still, the Constitution of the United States, I do not think, has anything about the Native Americans. But in that way, perhaps Nepal is far ahead, because I think one of the most important things that colonization and discrimination does, one of the worst things it does, it hurts your spirit. It hurts your identity. It hurts your self-respect. It hurts your your spirit to be able to resist discrimination and fight. At least, perhaps, with regard to all that negative influences of colonization which you see in the Americas. Look at the suicide rate in USA and Canada. Look at it in Nepal and Malaysia. I think that way you are better. Your spirit has not been killed. And I sympathize with my brothers and sisters in the USA and Canada. But in some respects, we are better off in Nepal, in Bangladesh, in Myanmar, and other parts of Asia. You are fighting with this discrimination, and my brother Sweekar mentioned that unity is the most important thing. And I think that despite all the challenges you face, I think you are united. 100% unity, I think is not something that is practicable. You tell me, who is united? Are the American whites united? Why do you have Democratic Party and Republican Party? Show me one people who are not divided into different political groups and different interest groups. Every society is pluralist. But if we expect now, in 2011, that our indigenous peoples will say yes to our one indigenous leader, then I think that is the sign of an undemocratic and unhealthy society. There will be dissent, there will be differences of opinion, there will be different ways of achieving the same thing that we want. That should not mean that we are disunited. I do not think the indigenous peoples of Nepal are any more disunited than any other indigenous peoples, or forget the indigenous peoples, even other peoples in the world. It is a sign of society. There is pluralism, there is differences. But how do we not make the differences take us backward? I think that is the more important struggle. The draft constitution of Nepal, with which I had the opportunity of discussing with the Nepali indigenous leaders, I think has many good things. You are the first in South Asia to go for proportionate representation. English-speaking countries like USA, Canada, United Kingdom, and even India, Pakistan, Bangladesh do not have. Somebody gets 30% of the vote. Everyone gets less than 30. The remaining 70% is divided into 10, 15, and 29%. Cannot become the member of the legislative body. Is that fair or not? But in Nepal, you have had the courage to introduce, I think it will come, I hope it will come, proportionate representation. And proportionate, and I added the word, Chaitanya knows, adequate. Because numbers do not necessarily mean it is fair. Because what if somebody is small? If you only get representation according to your numbers, then what will happen to the small groups? Because sometimes in the name of democracy, what happens is majoritarian autocracy. So with all due respect to the American system, to the British system, to the Western European system, I don't think they are perfect. So we have to carve out our own way of actually getting fair and adequate representation in the decision-making bodies in Nepal. And I think Nepal may become a role model for other societies. But of course that is the theory. But if you talk of the practice, that may be different. And you will have many, many challenges. I know that you have, Nepal is going to hopefully have different commissions. You are one of the first countries in Asia which will probably have even on people with different sexual orientation. That is not existing in any other constitution in South Asia, even in Europe. But of course, there will be some difficulties. And I think there are two difficulties amongst others, or three or four. My notes, I don't know. I took some notes so that I remember to tell you what I have been thinking for the last 2 years. And I will still forget many things. One is resources. It may be called the Republic of Nepal. It may talk about end to discrimination. But in the last 200 years of monarchy and Rana hegemony, they decided the rules of the game to say which property belongs to who. You may change the constitution, but there are some things that will not change. One thing that will not change is, I give you the example of a room. It is saying, okay, we have this house called Nepal. Okay, Magar, Guru, Thakali, Limbu, you can have this room, that's room. That is the structure of the federal autonomy of Nepal. But it is not saying one thing. In one room there is all the gold and the silver. It is not saying that, but everyone can also go and take the gold and silver. But the gold and silver has already been appropriated and collected by the the last 200 and more years. They are not going to say we are going to share that wealth. The Nepali structure is not saying that the land and resources will now be distributed. The private lands will not be distributed. Only what remains is not private, forests and others. There we will share with you. But the main gold and silver is in that big room, the treasury room. And the indigenous peoples of Nepal will not have access to that. That has already been distributed. Share. Little silver, 2 pieces, 3 pieces of gold, but the diamonds and platinum is still in the hands of non-indigenous people. That will not change. That is not changing in any other country, nor in Bolivia, nor in Guatemala or any other country. Second, party democracy. We know that. We know of the 200 and how many members of the Constituent Assembly?
18.
218. 218. Is it about 1/3 or 1/4? 1/3. How many times did the members of the Constituent Assembly from Adivasi Janjati speak in Parliament? Can they speak in Parliament without permission from the party whip? You know that the pain. We know that pain. We only have in Bangladesh 5 indigenous members of Parliament out of 300. So we are even much worse off. But that will not go away. Who will give the money for the election? First you have to get nomination. Second, you have to get campaign funds for the election. Some from the party funds, the rest from the contractors, from the businessmen, from the companies. Who will give that money? So that if we are practical, if we prepare to really fight in the future, we have to remember the member of the federal or state or provincial legislative assemblies, whether Adivasi Janjati becomes president or speaker or minister of the federal government or the state governments. Will they dance Adivasi Janjati dance? Will they dance the Magar dance? Or will they dance the Nepali dance? Will they dance the Thakali dance? Or will they dance the Nepali dance? So they will dance. So we have to be very careful in remembering that there will still be these problems which we have to bear in mind. And then another struggle, another challenge, I think, is the whole system of federalism. Okay, you will have state. How many states will you have? So far? 40. How many indigenous peoples are there in Nepal? 37%. But how many peoples? But how many number of jati? 59. You will not have 59 states. At most you will have 14 states. Okay, you will have Limbuan state. But in Limbuan state, will there not be other indigenous peoples who are not Limbu? There will be others. But how many of them will become ministers or the chief minister of Limbuan state? So, federalism can be an answer to some extent, but it cannot be the answer to the question of devolution and autonomy and self-determination for all the indigenous peoples. So my suggestions, my humble suggestions to our Nepali brothers and Nepali indigenous brothers and sisters has been, I have no problems with federalism, but federalism by itself cannot be the answer. Because in a federal system, that will be just a smaller Nepali state at the federal level. But there will still be controlled by 1 or 2 ethnic groups. They may be indigenous, but they may not necessarily have the interest or be able to protect the rights of all the smaller groups. So this is where I think the challenge is in maintaining some sort of local autonomy below the level of the federal state, before the province, and I think you have some suggested provisions at different levels. But the challenge is how can you get those units of autonomy below the level of the federal state or province to also have not just theoretically autonomy to take decisions, but funds. You may have, what if you have primary school, the majority group, or education in your own mother tongue or health-related matters, they will have to have the money. And where does the money come from? If that province cannot raise taxes from business, industry, forests, mineral resources, it will still be dependent on the Kathmandu federal government to get that money. So these are some of the challenges I think that you still have to face. I'm sure you will be able to face, but you have to very, very strategic manner. And I have only mentioned ethnicity. There is also the system of class. We cannot get away from the fact that even amongst the indigenous peoples, there are people with more power, more wealth, more education, and others will not. And how do you deal with that? So we have to, and gender. Women may get so many seats. That does not necessarily mean the women are taking the decisions to run. It may just be token. So these are some of the challenges, and I think that some of these challenges, of course, there is no other answer than to deal with them at the national, at the provincial, at the local level, in politics, with human rights advocacy, and this, however, I think still has to be combined with the international level. And that is where forums like the Permanent Forum on Indigenous Issues are important. It has an agenda for human rights, economic and social development, environment. So one can, I do not think we should have any, I think, unpractical dreams that tomorrow we will have a Federal Republic of Nepal and there will be many Adivasi Janjati who are president, vice president, ministers and all. But there will still be many issues. And I think your effective engagement with the Special Rapporteur, James Anaya, with, I think, the Committee on the Elimination of Racial Discrimination, one of the treaty bodies, which told the government of Nepal, you must include indigenous peoples in your constitution drafting process. So I think that even if you get your own people in government, I think the need to engage with international human rights and other bodies like the Permanent Forum and those bodies which are located in Geneva will still remain. And that is where I think the role of indigenous peoples living in New York and other parts of USA is so important. We have less from Bangladesh. Very few people living in New York. I think only 14 or 15 families from the Chittagong Hill Tracts live in New York. And maybe, well, you have more Bangladeshi families, but not indigenous. Some in California. But when we had the demonstration in front of the United Nations a few days ago, they all turned down. And I think the need for lobbying in the United Nations and other processes will not go away. Will not go away in the next 3, 4, 5, 10 years for the next generation of leaders, even for us, whether they are from Myanmar or Bangladesh or Indonesia, will have to keep on. And I have taken a long time. I will not take any time, but I just want to say thank you again. I appreciate the solidarity we have in Asia, as my brother Sweetheart mentioned. If we are united, we can make a change. And I think the present chairperson of the Indigenous Peoples of the Permanent Forum, our sister Minna Kanikan, the other day in a meeting with the Asian Caucus told us that she said, you Asians are one of the most organized. And I wish, she said, that the Africans and Latin Americans could also be like you. So I think you also have good points. Here is our brother from the AIDP. I think if we interact often enough, we can fight together and fight each other's struggle and get the best out we can. Thank you very much. We hope to work together again.
See that even though you are in the US, but you still maintain your traditional value, identity, and that is what that makes me very happy to see all of you tonight. And of course, that's in last year, I think that's when we developed the training manual for this UN trip. We talk about this migration issue. Migration in the indigenous territory as well as indigenous people migrate to out of our own territory. Then when it comes to that migration out of the indigenous territory, that is the issues, and we like to find these good practices, how they are the indigenous people maintain their traditional values, their identity, even though they are out of indigenous territory. And I think that the indigenous people of Nepal, America, that's if I know, then I will put in that training manual as you are one of the best practice from Asia. And yeah, I would like to little bit share about this AIPP, Asia Indigenous People Backwardism, comprised with 27 member organizations from 13 countries, namely Nepal, India, Bangladesh, Burma, Cambodia, Vietnam, Thai, Malaysia, Indonesia, Philippines, Japan, and Taiwan. So we have this 27 member organization. Then we also have 3 member organizations from Nepal, NEFIN, Lahore NIP, and NIP. That's Nepal Indigenous Women Federation. And we have this many, programs. One is, we call it a regional capacity building. And that's department, all of this capacity building, including the indigenous leader as well as the grassroots people, we have that capacity building program. And another one is we call this climate change, because this climate change is a very urgent to address. So we also have that climate change program. And another program is we have this human rights advocacy. Actually, that is always, still all of these indigenous people will face this, our rights are violated, and in order to address that violation, we have this program. And we also going to establish, and already established, that we call it the International Financial Institution, IFI, monitoring that the activities and the program of this IFI, how many of these IFI, they have this policy of indigenous peoples. So we like to, even though that still that policy are not actually that's good enough, but we like to ensure that they really follow and implement their policy when they implement their project. And another one we call this research and communication development. So in that way, that the AIPP is operating. Of course, the AIPP is to promote the indigenous issue in whatever we can do, but that is very still limited in terms of this both human and financial resources. And I like to a little bit about to share my experience as well, because I also come from very repressive military regime of Burma. So I think I also have the same feeling and the same suffering like you. And one of the important things is sometimes we always blame the dominant society when it comes to these indigenous peoples. But one thing is sometimes that we also have to reflect ourselves. For example, in Burma, we always blame to the Burman dominant society that they always try to divide and rule us. And of course, that's this is their, sometimes when I look at from their perspective, of course that is their responsibility, because they like to rule us. So they have to find means and ways how can they rule us. So that's they divide among us, they create this unity among us, then they can rule us. And there is their responsibility. I mean, that is what they have to do that. But from our side, don't just blame on their policy is not enough. We have to do something. So if we are enough unity, how can they play that tactic, that means to rule us? So I think that's in that regard, that's I'm very happy that you come here and you build this kind of federation, working together, and this is the unity. Then this unity, solidarity, you can bring and send or convey to your brother and sister in Nepal. Then why not? I'm very happy that you have a veto power in the present Constituent Assembly, because if you represent more than one-third in that Constituent Assembly, if you are united, then you can reject like veto power you have. Just the only thing is you don't use it yet. So in order to fully and effectively use that power, you need only one thing, nothing else, just one thing. That is unity among indigenous peoples, yourself. With that, I'd like to conclude saying that
I want to see all of you, and I've been to Nepal a few times because I'm working early in Bangkok, and the program where we were working, we had gone a few times to Nepal on different projects and different programs. So it was a wonderful surprise to have Sangeeta here and to see her. So I just want to say how privileged I am to have been here with all of you. And also I feel particularly happy because, all of them come for the permanent forum for 2 weeks. And then they all leave. And I'm still here in New York alone. So it's very nice to know that I have all of you here, and I hope I'm going to see you again in different occasions. I just moved here about 5 months ago in December. So I hope that you'll be my little touch with Asia and with Nepal. As my brothers have mentioned, Nepal is very unique and very fascinating country for many of us in Asia, because often when I work globally, the countries where they have had the most constitutional recognition of indigenous peoples is in Latin America. And Nepal is the first one that actually is taking these steps. They may appear little to you, because of course you want more, and that is your right to demand more, to have greater recognition. But it's little steps, but at least it's steps forward. And also I think the Philippines has the indigenous people's right to act. Other parts of Asia do not have the strong recognition of the identity of the indigenous peoples. And 169, you're a pioneer. So we always look forward to Convention 169, Nepal. It's the only country, you have Fiji and Nepal, and all the rest are either in Latin America or in other parts of Europe. So I think that, the very fact that you come here to the US, that in itself is a signal that you want to work further, you want to work more, and of course the problems you face in your own country. Because very often you don't really want to leave your own country and come and live in a foreign country where it's a different language, the climate is different, food is different, everything is different, and for you to have made this big sacrifice to come and live in the US, I think it's a great sacrifice you're making, but it's also something that you want to do to make sure that your country recognizes and accepts the fact that you have such a different and such a diverse identity in Nepal, and that you can move together with your brothers and sisters in Nepal and try to push forward their demands. I hope that we will see more of you at the Permanent Forum. It's only twice a year that it meets, the forum, and it We just finished our last meeting today at 6, so if I'm not making sense, it's because we've been working very hard for the last week. But I hope that at the next meeting of the Sandhini knows how to get in touch with us. I hope we're going to see more of you, because I think it's this connection you have with Nepal itself, but you fighting for the rights from here at a global level. I can draw attention to what is happening within the country that will help help move it forward and towards greater recognition of your rights. I hope, and I'm looking forward very much to having great interaction with you and to seeing more of you in the future, and to say thank you very, very much for having us and for giving us this opportunity. It's a great honor to be here with all of you.
His suggestions have been taken very seriously by the Caucus, and most of the time they are discussing and they are forming, they are having a lot of consultations among themselves. As you all know, indigenous CA members belong to different parties, mainly in 3 major parties: UCP and Maoist, Nepali Congress, and NCP, United Marxist Lenists. There are also small parties whose representatives are indigenous people. But the main difficulties are to force consensus among themselves on several indigenous issues. They have their own perceptions, ideas, or ideological kind of framework to deal with the indigenous issues. Those kind of problems were creating a lot of difficulties in the past to have a concrete idea and to make a concrete suggestions to the thematic committees of the Constituent Assembly. Now, the indigenous CA members have prepared their concept paper. It's a kind of position paper, and already submitted to the chair of the Constituent Assembly as well as to the chair of the Constitutional Committee. They have suggested that to the delegation of the party that those suggestions of the caucus will be brought for deliberations in the concerned committees. But unfortunately, the constitution making process is moving in such a slow pace in Nepal. It is quite difficult to say anything. It is difficult to predict the future of Constituent Assembly itself. Today probably is the last day of the extended one period. There is still the debate is going on, and the government has proposed to extend for 1 year the terms of the Constituent Assembly. But the court gave the decision that it should extend only for 6 months. There are 2 logics. Number 1, constituent powers are vested on Constituent Assembly only. That means only the Constituent Assembly can make a constitution of sovereign people. So, till the constitution are formulated, the terms of the Constituent Assembly should be extended. On the other hand, another argument is, in the last 1 year, only there was 7 sessions of Constituent Assembly. The rest was devoted on power competition, some kind of government forming and dismantling governments, that kind of unhealthy game, unhealthy politics. That prolonged the whole process of constitution making. only 7 days was devoted on constitutional deliberations. So people started to say that this Constituent Assembly is unable to formulate constitution, so better to end the term of office. If any institution, if any people's institution cannot function properly and cannot do their assigned task, then there is no use of spending so huge money on such institutions, so other ways have to be found. And we see about 30 billion rupees was spent in the last 3 days, spent on UNMIN, UNT. That monitored the peace process and constitution making process, starting from the election of Constituent Assembly till the last 6-7 months. And unfortunately, the mission was not successful in their mission, in its mission. The main, it is again, the peace process is becoming the main hurdle in the constitution making. So, there is a demand from opposition, especially from Nepali government, it should go hand in hand. Peace process and constitution building should go hand in hand. If the army, Maoist army remains aloof, not integrated with the army of Nepal, and if they remain separate as an army, then it will again will be a problem in future. So there should be only one army. In the constitution it should be mentioned that there should be only one army, not two kinds of army, Maoist army and Nepalese army. So this should, first of all, this should be resolved. These issues should be resolved first, then the constitution should be promulgated. This is causing a lot of problems still till today, till late hours. This issue is not yet resolved. And another is, there are also another ideological line, like making constitution, people's constitution on the one hand, on the other hand, liberal democratic constitution. Two schools of thought are causing some kind of problems, the convergence. So it is difficult to make some kind of convergence between a vast divergence. So this is another critical kind of ideological debate. So they are also trying, many political scientists, lawyers, constitutional lawyers, are trying to find some kind of convergence between two different schools of thought. That would be the better way to accommodate all these kind of problems. And another critical issue is about state restructuring. This federal structure with federation or a strong federation. Identity-based provinces or non-identity based provinces. 14 provinces proposed by concerned thematic committee or less than 40 provinces. This kind of debate is also going on. Some are suggesting to have a separate commission for the restructuring of the state, and the commission should give the technical idea to concern committee of the Constituent Assembly to rethink their decisions. But ultimately the decision makers are members of that concerned constitutional committee. So these kind of problems are also involved. Anyhow, even in the last hour, we are expecting that the term of the CA will be extended for 6 months. If not, there will be a kind of disaster in the country. We are not sure what will happen in the future because all the political, naturally everything will depend on political parties. And we have seen the political parties most inefficient to deal with the constitutional issue. Most difficult to compromise each other, to accommodate each other. So these kind of problems are emerging in the past.
By the government, I think we are eager to hear from our distinguished guests tonight.
Issues about the indigenous people all over the world. And I believe that our leaders, they will raise the voice of the indigenous rights. And still in our country, there are a lot of problems. I want to mention something here. The ILO 169, the Geneva Convention, was passed long time ago. But still in Nepal, that is not implemented in our country. There's a big issue there. Right now, there are a lot of problems about the indigenous people of Nepal. Even if we talk like this, some of them, they are talking us that they are racist. But we are not racist, we are talking about the rights of indigenous people. If I am right. And I hope, I believe, the gentlemen and distinguished guests are representing in the United Nations about indigenous people's issues. So, I believe you will make a big voice, you will raise a big issues about the indigenous people of all over the world in the United Nations. And there are a lot of things to do. Even this is almost like 240 years that we are exploited from the, how I explain to you about these things. If I talk, maybe different, it makes a different sense. Recently the Nepalese ambassador, Mr. Shankar Sharma from DC, this is almost like 25 years ago, when he was a planning commissioner in Nepal. He signed for the ILO 169 Geneva Conventions, the treaties, but still that one is on the, in underground, is not coming up.
आदिवासी जनजाति महिलाहरू त्यसमा पनि अझ लोपान्मुख अवस्थामा रहेका आदिवासी जनजातिहरूसँग मैले काम गर्दाखेरि अझ पीडा खेपिरहेको पाएँ र मैले अहिले चाहिँ के भन्न चाहन्छु भने अहिले हामी जुन स्ट्रगल गरिरहेको छौं we are fighting against caste and gender discrimination in the world, and second is we are struggling for to better world to hand over our new generation. र मेरो आफ्नो पर्सपेक्टिभले भन्दाखेरि look at the world through the women eyes. मैले आफ्नो आँखाले हेर्दाखेरि विश्वमा महिलाहरूको अवस्था कस्तो छ भनेर हेर्न चाहन्छु। त्यसकारणले गर्दाखेरि हामीले यो अमेरिकामा आइसकेपछि मलाई सायद त्यति भन्न त नपर्ने तर मलाई भन्नै पर्ने पनि अवस्था देखेको छु। मैले यहाँ आइसकेपछि मैले हुनसक्छ मेरो एक्सपेक्टेसन हाई हुन सक्छ। अमेरिकामा बस्ने आदिवासी जनजाति र नेपालीहरू धेरै अगाडि छन् होला भन्ने सोचेको थिएँ मैले। किनभने नेपालमा भन्दा यहाँ सुविधा छ। 24 घण्टा तपाईले चाहनुहुन्छ भने हामी कोडलाई हेरेर कोडको इन्फर्मेसन ड्राइभ गर्न सक्छौँ र 24 घण्टा हामीले आफूले कति एक्टिभ राख्न सक्छौँ भन्नेमा भर पर्छ। त्यसकारणले हामी चाहन्छौँ भने अमेरिकाबाट विश्वलाई चाहिँ हामी ह्यान्डल गर्न सक्छौँ। विश्वको महिलाको आन्दोलन, आदिवासी जनजातिको आन्दोलनलाई हामीले सहयोग गर्न सक्छौँ। र हामीलाई के लाग्यो भनेदेखि यहाँ आइसकेपछि आदिवासी जनजाति महिलाहरू अझै न्युयोर्कमा बस्ने महिलाहरू धेरै पछाडि रहेछन्। अझै हाम्रो साथीहरूले भनिसक्नुभयो माइग्रेसनको इस्यु, भाइलेन्स, डोमेस्टिक भाइलेन्स, डोमेस्टिक वर्कर भाइलेन्स बिग इस्यु हैन। जो माइग्रेट भएर आएका महिलाहरू छन्, जनजाति मात्र होइन अन्य जाति महिलाहरू यहाँ यति पीडित छन्, यति भाइलेन्स छ र नेपालमा मात्र होइन कि बाहिर आइसकेपछि पनि महिलाहरू यसरी हरेक ठाउँमा पीडा सहेर बाँच्नु पर्ने अवस्था रहेछ भन्ने कारणले हामीले यो आदिवासी जनजाति महिला महासङ्घ खोलौँ न त। हामी जनजातिको आन्दोलनमा पाटा, एउटै सिक्काको दुईटा पाटा हौ। हामी आन्दोलनलाई सहयोग गर्न सक्छौँ। तर जनजाति महिलालाई च्यालेन्ज चाहिँ के हो भने हामी जनजाति महिला मात्रै नभएर अन्य महिलाहरूसँग पनि हामी सँगसँगै जानुपर्ने हुन्छ। विश्वको महिलाहरूसँग पनि सँगसँगै जानुपर्ने भएको हुनाले हामीले अझ बढी स्ट्रगल गर्नुपर्ने चाहिँ देखिरहेका छौँ। र मलाई चाहिँ के लाग्छ भने यहाँ आइसकेपछि धेरै थरीका कुराहरू पनि आए, धेरै थरीका कुराहरू मैले सुने, प्रब्लम पनि मैले झेलेँ हैन। तर मलाई दुःख छैन, किनभने नेपालीहरूले अथवा आदिवासी जनजाति महिलाहरूले अथवा महिलाहरूले विश्वको जुनसुकै कुनामा रहेर पनि हामी विश्वको महिलाहरूको मुक्तिको लागि काम गर्न सक्छौँ भन्ने मलाई विश्वास छ, आशा छ। हाम्रो दाजुभाइ दिदीबहिनीहरूले पनि सहयोग गर्नुहुनेछ। त्यसकारणले गर्दाखेरि आज तपाईँ हामीले उहाँलाई समक्ष पाइरहेछौँ। उहाँहरू आफ्नो एउटा कन्ट्रीको मात्र होइन विश्वको आन्दोलनलाई, विश्वको जनजातिको आन्दोलनलाई कसरी अगाडि बढाउन सकिन्छ, कसरी न्याय दिलाउन सकिन्छ भनेर उहाँहरूले सङ्घर्ष गरिराख्नु भएको छ। तपाईँ हामी अमेरिका बस्ने महिला दिदीबहिनी, जनजाति दाजुभाइ दिदीबहिनीहरूले पनि हामीले हाम्रो जुन अहिले हामीले जुन पीडा भोगिरहेछौँ, जुन अहिले भेदभाव भोगिरहेछौँ, जातीय वर्गीय लैङ्गिक जुन मुद्दा झेलिरहेछौँ त्यसको विरुद्धमा हामी अगाडि बढाउनको लागि अथवा न्यायपूर्ण समाज बनाउनको लागि, समतामूलक समाज बनाउनको लागि तपाईँ हामी एउटा पूर्व फर्किने एउटा पश्चिम फर्किने होइन कि जुनसुकै पार्टीको होस्, जुनसुकै जातिको होस्, तपाईँ हामी यदि अमेरिका बसेर नेपाली हौ भनेर देखाउन चाहनुहुन्छ भने हामी एकजुट हुनुपर्छ र हामी नेपालीको लागि केही गरेर देखाउनु पर्छ। मैले यहाँ धेरै म आइसकेपछि जस्तो चाइनिज कम्युनिटीले बङ्गलादेशको, इन्डियाको धेरैले यहाँ आफ्नो गरेको चाहिँ देखेको छ। तर हामी नेपालीहरूमा आफैमा चाहिँ अहङ्कार हो कि मलाई केही पनि थाहा छैन, मैले त्यसको एनालाइसिस गरेको छैन, मैले रिपोर्टिङ गर्नुपर्छ, मैले रिसर्च गर्नुपर्ने एज अ एक्टिभिस्ट, इन्डिजिनियस वुमेन एक्टिभिस्ट, एज अ वुमेन ह्युमन राइट एक्टिभिस्टको हिसाब गर्यो भने मैले गर्न सक्छु, म भन्न सक्छु। तर मलाई चाहिँ के दुःख लाग्छ भने हामी नेपालीहरू, न्युयोर्कमा बस्ने नेपालीहरू अझ एकजुट हुन बाँकी छ है। महिला दाजुभाइ दिदीबहिनीहरू एउटा जनजाति मात्रै नभएर समग्र नेपालीहरूले चाहिँ हामीले हाम्रो आइडेन्टिटी कसरी देखाउने त। तपाईँहरू हेर्नुहोस्, न्युयोर्कमा बस्ने मैले सबभन्दा पहिला आएर के हेरेको थिएँ भने न्युयोर्कमा बस्ने नेपालीहरू कति छन् भन्दाखेरि नेपालीको त्यहाँ नामै छैन, नेपाल भन्ने शब्द नै छैन। यहाँ 5 कम्युनिटीको चाहिँ भाषादेखि लिएर कम्युनिटीको सम्पूर्ण उयोहरू छ। खै त हाम्रो आइडेन्टिटी। त्यसकारणले तपाईँ हामीले यस्तो अवस्थामा चाहिँ हाम्रो आइडेन्टिटी यदि अमेरिकामा देखाउन चाहन्छौँ भने तपाईँ हामी एकजुट हुनैपर्छ। त्यसको सँगसँगै हामी त छँदैछौँ, बाहिर पनि हातेमालो गर्नुपर्छ भनेर आज हामी संयोगवश हाम्रो भाग्यले भनौँ होइन, यो कार्यक्रम वास्तवमा हामी त्यति लामो योजना बनाएर चाहिँ चाहिँ गरेको होइन कि हामी 2 हप्ता अगाडि हाम्रो युएनमा साथीहरू आउँदै हुनुहुन्छ, डेलिगेसन नेपालबाट पनि आउँदै हुनुहुन्छ र युएन पर्मानेन्ट फोरममा पनि आउँदै हुनुहुन्छ। उहाँहरूलाई एउटा स्वागत कार्यक्रम राखौँ, अन्तर्क्रिया कार्यक्रम जस्तो राखौँ भनेर एउटा अपरझट जस्तो गरे हो। तर संयोगले के भयो भने सबै हाम्रो अगाडि उहाँहरूलाई पायौँ, हामी साह्रै भाग्यमानी रहेछौँ। डाक्टर चैतन्य सुब्बा सर यहाँ आउँदै हुनुहुन्छ भनेपछि मलाई यति आत्मविश्वास भयो, म यति चाहिँ रमाएँ भन्ने कुरा मलाई थाहा छैन है। म आफ्नो खुसी चाहिँ व्यक्त गर्न सक्दिनँ, तपाईँ हामीलाई थाहा छ उहाँ को हुनुहुन्छ भनेर। त्यस कारणले गर्दाखेरि अब हामी चाहिँ यसरी फुटेर होइन, एकले अर्कालाई आक्षेप लगाएर, एकले अर्कालाई नेगेटिभली होइन कि पोजिटिभली जाउँ, हामी अवश्य पनि सफल हुन्छौँ। हामी विश्वको आदिवासी जनजाति महिलाहरू, विश्वको आदिवासी जनजातिहरू, विश्वका महिलाहरूलाई एकजुट गराउनको लागि तपाईँ हाम्रो योगदान एकदमै महत्त्वपूर्ण छ र हामी एउटा नमुना भएर देखाउन सक्छौँ भन्दै आज जुन यो हाम्रो कार्यक्रममा युएनबाट आउनुभयो र त्यस्तै गरी विभिन्न देशबाट आउनुभएको छ, उहाँहरूलाई पनि हाम्रो धन्यवाद। त्यस्तै गरी विभिन्न सङ्घ संस्थाबाट आउनुभएका हाम्रा जातीय सङ्घ संस्थाका प्रतिनिधिहरू र पत्रकार साथीहरू र यो हल उपलब्ध गराउनु हुने हाम्रो केशव राईज्यू, त्यस्तै गरी आजको खाना र हाम्रो पाहुनाहरूलाई ओसार्नको लागि सहयोग गर्नुहुने हाम्रो जुन भाइहरू हुनुहुन्छ उहाँहरू सबैलाई धन्यवाद दिँदै आजको कार्यक्रम पनि समाप्त भएको म जानकारी गर्छु। खाना हाम्रो यहाँ रेडी छ, खाना नखाएको पनि नजानु होला भन्दै सबैलाई फेरि सबैबाट बिदा हुन चाहन्छु। धन्यवाद। जय आदिवासी जनजाति महिला महासङ्घ अमेरिका।